Today we're joined by Janie, who's a senior consultant always at our 9000. So this is a Retrofit Information Support and Expertise event, which is fully funded by the Department of Energy, Security and Net Zero, and is delivered by TAR 9000. And without further ado, I would like to introduce Janie and to you.
Thank you very much, Sophia. Good morning, everybody. Lovely to have you with us. So as Sophia has said, my name's Janie Bray. I'm a senior sustainability consultant here at Turner & Townsend. I work within our housing team, specialise in ESG reporting for social housing providers, circular economy and retrofit. And I will be your presenter for today's masterclass on embedding social value in retrofit projects. And as Sophia has said, we're going to leave some time at the end so that we can have a discussion and for any questions that you might have. Okay, so today's agenda, we're going to have a look at what is social value, embedding and tailoring social value in procurement and supply chains, social value in the project team, delivering social value, and we'll also have a look at a case study, and then we'll tell you about some resources that we have for you. Okay, so what is social value? So you can see on the screen there, the Social Value UK defines social value as the quantification of the relative importance that people place on the changes they experience in their lives. So it goes beyond financial measures and considers the broader benefits to the community, environment, and individuals. So social value is the catch-all term that is used to describe the difference an organisation or a project can make to the community that they're operating in. So, for example, every £1 spent on the delivery of services, can that same £1 be used to also produce a wider benefit to the community? So the importance of embedding social value in your projects. By embedding social value in your projects, you'll help to support social and environmental return on investments, support the local economy, create quality new employment opportunities for local residents in terms of careers and not just jobs. You can help promote equality, diversity and inclusion. And also social value can provide support in terms of health and well-being for your local residents. Social value is also a requirement of the Warm Homes policy. So what are the principles underpinning social value? See, we've got this donut in the centre, and at the very centre of that, we've got stakeholders. So that's the number one principle, to involve your stakeholders. That they'll help to inform you what gets measured and how this is measured and the value of that for stakeholders. Number two there, understand what changes. So articulate how change is created and evaluate this through evidence being gathered. So recognising both the positive and negative changes, as well as those that are intended and also are unintended. Third one there, value the things that matter. So making decisions about allocating resources between different options needs to recognise the values of your stakeholders. So value refers to the relative importance of different outcomes, and it's informed by stakeholder preferences. And the fourth one there, only include what is material. So determine what information and evidence must be included in the accounts to give a true and fair picture, such that stakeholders can draw reasonable conclusions about the expected impact. And number 5 there, don't overclaim. Only claim the value of the activities that are responsible. So yeah, don't overclaim, just include those activities that have been responsible for the outcomes, the social value outcomes. And also be transparent, so demonstrate the basis on which the analysis may be considered accurate and honest, and show that this will be reported and discussed with your stakeholders. And the 7th principle there, verifying the results, so ensure that appropriate and independent assurances are given for the outcomes of the social value that's been put in place. And then be responsive, number 8 there, so pursue optimum social value based on decision making that's timely and supported by appropriate accounting and reporting. So where does social value come from? And what we've got on the screen here, the 3 sort of key drivers that have been responsible for supporting embedding social value. So the first one there, the Sustainable Development Goals, which were introduced in 2015. So these goals are the blueprint for achieving a sustainable future and for a better quality of life for all. And then we've got the Public Services Social Value Act of 2012. This act requires all public authorities to have regard to economic, social and environmental well-being in connection with public service contracts. And then we've got Procurement Policy Note 0620, about to be superseded by Procurement Note 002. And this is the act that requires authorities to have regard for social and environmental well-being in connection with public service contracts. And as I say, PPN 002 comes into force this year, and we'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. But basically, the procurement policy note requires there to be a 10% minimum weighting to be applied for social value in procurement. Okay, so social value frameworks that we've got at our disposal. We've got 3 on the screen here. So as I mentioned, the government's PPN 002, this is the social value model. And this model was introduced in June 2020, I believe, by the Cabinet Office, and it was designed to help central government to embed social value into their procurement processes. So it's the UK government's procurement policy, and it must be used by all central government departments, their executive agencies, and non-departmental public bodies. It sets out the government's social value priorities for procurement, and it includes a menu of social value options for commercial staff who are working in scope organisations for them to review and select with their internal clients and any other stakeholders. Then we've got the hacked social value roadmap, and this is based on 3 key themes. And with me, and this is this was developed in 2020. The task force itself that's responsible for developing this contains representatives from about 22 organisations. Those organisations include social housing organisations, national membership bodies, developers, contractors, and the regulator of social housing. As I said, it's a 3-stage model, with stage 1 being expanding the UK social value bank with a broader set of wellbeing values, a set of economic values, and a set of environmental values. It brings these together with different methodologies to ensure that they're coherent, robust, and avoids any double counting. Then stage 2 is about developing the tools to use the UK Social Value Bank. These enable social housing organisations to apply social value metrics across their businesses. So whether it's in asset management or investment, ESG reporting, or regulation and value for money. And then the 3rd stage is applying the UK Social Value Bank to businesses. And this is about evolving the approach to social value and developing a range of services for social housing organisations. So a useful framework for social housing providers. And then finally there we've got the TOMS system. So TOMS stands for Themes, Outcomes and Measures. This framework was introduced in 2016. It was introduced by the Local Government Association's Social Value Task Force, and it was aimed to help local authorities at that time when there were no other frameworks available to them. Okay, so let's look at PPN 002. So this model is set to integrate social value into public procurement to deliver social, economic and environmental benefits. It supersedes 0620. And it will be mandatory for in-scope organisations from October the 1st, 2025. There's guidance, and that guidance provides a structured approach to selecting and implementing social value outcomes and criteria, and that structured approach follows a 3-step process. As I said, there is guidance that supports this model, and it's designed to help organisations select and implement social value outcomes and criteria effectively. And as I say, there's a fantastic guidance document that you can find online. Okay. So social value, model themes and policy outcomes. So PPN 02 social value model is structured around 3 key themes. So these are economic, social, and environmental. So the economic theme is aimed at promoting local employment, skills, and economic growth. Then this is designed to stimulate the local economy. Then we have social, and this is about the goal of enhancing community cohesion, health and well-being, and it also demonstrates how procurement can help to build stronger, healthier communities by addressing social issues and improving the quality of life. And then we've got the environmental theme. So it's important to include a holistic approach that supports sustainability and helps to reduce the carbon footprint. Procurement has a crucial role in promoting green initiatives and encouraging environmentally friendly practices. And then we've got the policy outcomes here. So the outcomes are tackling economic inequality, creating opportunities for disadvantaged groups. So fighting climate change is another policy outcome there. So implementing green initiatives and reducing emissions. And then also we've got promoting well-being, so improving public health and community resilience. Okay, so how to use this model? So there's a three-stage process. So the first stage is to select an outcome. So the PPN 002 social value model has in the guidance a whole selection of outcomes that you can choose from. You should ensure that the outcome relates to the subject matter of the contract and that it can be realistically achieved by your suppliers. The next stage is to then insert the social value question. So you're able to refine that question. You should include the model's social value question in your tender document and refine it based on market feedback that suits your specific conditions of your contract. And then finally, insert the award criteria. So add the corresponding social value award criteria and then any sub-criteria to your tender document. And again, you should refine that criteria based on your market feedback, ensuring that it's proportionate to the contract. Okay, so embedding and tailoring social value. So when you're applying social value, you need to ensure that you're responding to the local needs of your community. You see we have a map there, a mapped out timeline of the elements that you need to consider. So starting at the beginning there, we've got awareness. This is obviously vital. It's critical to ensure that awareness of social value has been raised. So building that awareness within your organisation is critical. And then identifying your pipeline of procurements. So what contracts are there that you're going to be able to consider and look at how you can embed social value into those. And then the next stage is market assessment. So in assessing the market by considering the community impact and environmental sustainability. And then from there, you can select your key criteria. So selecting social value themes, policy outcomes, and model award criteria. And then taking that selected key criteria to market and talking to your market to test the selected themes and policy outcomes and model award criteria. And then defining your procurement requirements. So building the evaluation criteria into the procurement requirements. Then we've got tender evaluation. So contract management and reporting is key. You need to ensure that you are managing those social value outcomes through regular contract management and reporting, and then managing that contract at the end there. So the high level approach to this, as you can see, we've got the schematic here. So understanding the needs of your local community and the area where you're working or operating, collaborating with stakeholders to agree social value priorities, assessing the local needs, identifying the organisation's pipeline of procurement. So that's your starting point. And then understanding the social value models and metrics and preparing a social value strategy for organisational alignment. And then that feeds into identifying your pipeline of procurements. And then from there, drawing down on your strategy in your procurement, exemplifying maturity aligned to government priorities in tendering and applying to your retrofit supply chain. And from there, creating meaningful additional social value and reporting clear outcomes and the impact of social value. And have a look at understanding the needs of your community. So the various approaches to being able to get a handle on what the needs of your community are. So reviewing social and economic data. You're liaising with those organisations, those colleagues, departments that are going to understand your communities and their socio-economic situation. Engaging with your residents to understand their needs and what their desires are for their community. Reviewing approaches in other communities, so in similar communities, having a look at what approaches have been carried out there and the learning from those. And then mapping and engaging with representative stakeholders, so really ensuring you know who your stakeholders are and that you're able to engage with them. And then carrying out a local needs analysis. So having a look at this stakeholder mapping and buy-in. So we've got, as you can see here, along the bottom there, the level of interest that key stakeholders or various stakeholders might have in the project. And then along the side there on the left, the level of influence that those stakeholders might have. So as you can see, we've got high level of influence and high level of interest up in that top right. So our key players, local colleges and schools, your residents at the heart there, your project board. These are all key players in your stakeholder mapping and buy-in. And then we've got down the bottom here, bottom right, you need to keep them informed. There's still a high level of interest, and that's your delivery partners. And then moving across to the left, got low level of interest, but a high level of influence, and that is your procurement, your internal finance teams, maybe your local community centre, and these stakeholders that need to be kept satisfied through this process. And then we have the bottom left there, low level of influence and low level of interest, where we need to build awareness, and this is the general public. So social value in procurement and in supply chain. So why is social value important to the supply chain? Okay, so social value procurement questions. So framing your award questions. So it's important that you make your request clear to potential suppliers and contractors. It should be worded in such a way that they can respond to your request intelligently. You should invite tailored and considered responses, not just generic cut and paste ones. And that's been a bit of an issue to now, but hopefully that's going to change as we move forward. Conveying a sense that your organisation knows what you're asking for. So to give confidence to your potential suppliers and contractors, you do know what you're asking for, and you can be clear about that. Ask a question per policy outcome and include measuring and monitoring of social value in those questions. Let's have a look at some example social value questions. So on the left, we've got the generic question, and then on the right, an enhanced version of that question that's designed to elicit a broader response from your tenderer. So what is your organisation policy with regard to recruitment diversity? Well, here you can elaborate further there to, as I say, elicit a better response. That is, outline the measures you will take to improve diversity and inclusion of the workforce on this contract. Explain how you will deliver this and how you will measure and report impact. Next question there, what is your policy to wellbeing in the local area? Instead ask, outline the measures you'll take to improve well-being of the local community and workforce during this contract, and explain how you will deliver this, measure and report on that impact. And finally there, how do you plan to improve economic activity in the local area? Improved question, outline the measures you will take to support local economic growth, particularly in areas of high deprivation on this contract. Explain how you will deliver this and measure and report on that impact. So I think you'll agree the improved questions will elicit a much deeper response from your potential suppliers and contractors. So evaluating social value. So the social value model requires users to assess and score the quality of the social value offered in the tender against the selected policy outcomes. So this is at the evaluation stage, in the same way as you would do for any other evaluation criteria designed to assess quality. So using the guide, How to Evaluate Social Value in Tenders. This details how to evaluate social value, and it advises that tenderers should take account of the additional social benefits. That's very important, that can be achieved in the delivery of these contracts. So using policy outcomes aligned with government priorities. So scoring methodology is set out for suppliers clearly. You should ensure that the method is proportionate, so you're not building in any unnecessary burdens to suppliers or on commercial teams. And social value, you should be clear, should have a minimum of a 10% weighting of the assessment criteria. Okay. So social value in the project team. So ensuring that you've embedded social value in the project team. So consider things such as learning and development. Social value isn't a paradigm that everyone is aware of. We all feel it, we all benefit from it, but it's not a paradigm that we can expect everybody to just automatically understand. So providing learning and development is vital. Community and society engagement. So really engaging with your communities and societies. Ensuring that you're considering well-being at work is super important, and also ensuring that you're providing equal opportunities. Okay, so going back to learning and development, what does that look like? So you could be supporting upskilling, so that might include training such as providing domestic energy assessor training, retrofit assessor training, and coordinator training, and also providing city and guilds courses. So potentially, working with your local colleges to have a look at what courses could be provided. Career development, so understanding what areas and roles the team want to progress in. So actually having a look at what that looks like, what the desire is amongst your team for career development. And then also using the project to provide opportunities. So can you present on the project to local organisations? Is there an opportunity for you to attend colleges, as I say, schools, local businesses that might have an interest? And are you offered to enable any local groups' work experience on the project itself, for example? Okay, so let's move on to delivering social value. So it's vital that when you're considering social value and implementing it, you think about how you're going to be able to measure your social value. You should take a bespoke approach. Retrofit projects have significant benefits on the local community, but they should be measurable, and measuring them in a bespoke way, so you're not just taking a general approach, is vital. It should be determined by what you're trying to achieve. So, who is the key audience for these results, and what decisions will it inform? Then the outcomes that are focused on should reflect the type of development or the needs of the community and what the delivery partners are able to deliver. Embedding across the life cycle. So all stakeholders need to be committed to the measurement process. Measurements should begin as early as possible in the process, and they should continue long after the project has actually been delivered. Be as holistic as possible. So any social value assessment should consider economic, environmental and social factors. Too often, social value assessments exclude environmental interventions. These are often considered to be dealt with in a separate way or in separate reporting mechanisms, but it's better understanding the societal impact of key environmental interventions and how these can support more sustainable decision making. So involving the local community, so communities can provide valuable insights into which outcomes should be measured, as well as vital primary data. Involving beneficiaries in measurement processes is an important step in empowering them to be part of co-creating the desired outcomes. So partnering with local charities can provide a connection to some of those groups. Making it meaningful, help the audience to make sense of the numbers, provide baseline information about the current community and place in question. Where that's not possible, possibly provide reference projects which the project can be benchmarked against. So if social value is expressed in financial terms, there should never just be one aggregated financial figure given to express the social value of a project. Be transparent, so show you're working. Provide key stakeholders with the measurement methodology that you've undertaken, outlining all of the evidence that's been used, and demonstrate the basis on which the analysis may be considered accurate and honest. When results are used publicly, as much of the methodology and source data as possible should be publicly accessible, and ensure it's robust and credible. The measurement methodology should be robust, ensuring that the approach accounts for additionality and optimism. And then also, importantly, should take into account negative impacts as well. So any social value assessment should ensure that negative impacts of the development are properly taken into account as well as the positive ones. So successes obviously should be celebrated, but they're only credible if you present them alongside an honest reflection of what the negative impacts were. So you can fully understand the negative impacts, which will also help to inform better decision making. And then finally, driving future change. So the purpose of measurement should be to inform decision making rather than just to measure for the sake of measuring. Currently, there aren't enough feedback loops in place for future decisions to be made on the basis of information gathered. Likewise, assessing the relevant data could start sooner in the development process to better inform decision making. So let's have a look at a social value delivery plan key points. So a strong delivery plan evidences how you or your suppliers intend to create the outcome that you seek to be addressed through the project. So it should include governance, a robust governance, who is responsible and how will they be made aware. So, regular reporting, including it social value. The social value delivery plan is a regular agenda item on certain meetings so that you're cascading that information. Make sure that roles and responsibilities have been clearly defined. Who's doing what and when and how. Ensure that your commitments are backed up with measurables, so ensure that there are KPIs and why those KPIs are in place for those commitments. So delivery of social value commitments, how are they going to be delivered and when are they going to be delivered? And then consider how you're going to influence your stakeholders. What does that look like? I'm going to move on to have a look at a case study. So this is Leeds City Council. This was a whole house retrofit in Holbeck. So it was 153 homes were receiving a whole house retrofit, and this retrofit saved its residents between £350 and £400 on their energy bills per year, and also cut the city's carbon footprint by 1,400 tonnes. So Leeds City Council used an area-based approach to retrofit their Victorian terraces in Holbeck. The council engaged with the residents as part of that retrofit programme and established a strong relationship with them, building trust and a rapport. Community engagement then helped to identify priority issues for improvement. Interestingly, one of the main issues that was addressed was these enclosed bin yards that these properties used for their waste and recycling. Unfortunately, those bin yards become an area or a hotspot for fly tipping. And there was also, as a result of that, there was elements of antisocial behaviour. So as part of the social value for this retrofit project, the council replaced those bin yards with open bin areas, so unenclosed bin areas. This also supported addressing some of the antisocial behaviour in the area. So the scheme, it gained significant traction, and the council successfully extended their programme until the funding ran out. And some of the lessons that were learned from this retrofit project and the social value approach was a holistic approach incorporating the social value works within the energy efficiency works was really important. The council found that reaching the community with an offer that benefited the community in a myriad of ways rather than just focusing on the energy efficiency, that was key to take up. Having a long-term relationship with their contractor was invaluable. This is particularly valuable where the contractor also builds a relationship and trust in the local community, and also where the contractor has local knowledge. And then finally, using social housing as a demonstrator creates a snowball effect. So the council found that using social housing as a demonstrator encouraged private landlords and owners to join in with the project. And this increased the sense of pride and community cohesion in the area and also led to further home improvement works. Okay, so summary on embedding social value. So from the start, consider all parties. So really map your stakeholders, understand the legislation, really know what the legislation looks like and what the requirements are. Understand social value models and metrics. And as I said earlier, integrate social value right from the beginning. So right from the start, and then measure and monitor it right beyond. Ensure that you get your team on board and that they're fully on board and they're fully knowledgeable about what the outcomes are for the social value in your project. Create robust tracking mechanisms, so ensure that you are able to monitor your social value outcomes, and create checkpoints. So have a look for, maybe pop in some milestones, or have cyclical reporting, so that you can really check that your social value is staying on track. Oh, and I just popped this slide in here. This was a retrofit project that Crawley Borough Council have been working on over there in Crawley. It's got social value very deeply embedded at its heart, and this particular project, the council set up a community hub for the residents on an estate where there was going to be about 400 homes retrofitted. The hub was in a void property, and it was designed to be a place where residents could go to find out information about the retrofit that was happening on their estate. And the resident liaison officer was embedded in that property. And so residents could go and ask questions, find out what was going on progress-wise with the works, etc. It also became a centre for respite. So if there were particularly noisy works going on a particular day, residents had somewhere to go where they could go and get a cup of tea and chat with other residents. Actually, what happened is it became a very important community hub, a place where residents all came together and started having regular tea mornings, coffee mornings, and then they even started having a hot food day once a week, where they would bring meals to share with each other, and also shared those meals with the contractors, the installers working on site. In fact, anecdotally, Jack told me that the workers used to look forward to having some hot food on a Friday lunchtime. And the residents also set up some volunteer mornings where they had cake sales and things, and they raised funds for a local charity. You can see there, Jack said that he felt that the greatest success had been from the communities that had been created as part of the retrofit works that had been going on. And how valuable the hub had become to local residents.